Progress. Hi, folks. Thanks for streaming. This 12th episode of Yumio to Ohanashi features the debut author of Cold Keep Reprisal, James Lurid from Canada. Thanks for joining here, James. Can you briefly introduce yourself to me? Oops, seems like there's an audio issue right here. Okay. 1 second. Yes, we have those kind of things always. Okay, so did you get the audio?
Right. And I'll see.
Okay. Yes, I'm getting your audio right now.
You're getting my audio now? Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Yes,
I moved my microphone, it didn't work. Did you want to start over?
No. We just see go ahead and run because that's kind of fun thing to do. So,
Okay.
so can you answer the first question? Yes.
Yeah. My name is Mitchell Wagger. I live in Canada, Calgary, Alberta area in Alberta. And I've been here most of my life. And I've slowly been kind of making my way into the writing world with my newest book, Cold Keep Reprisal, that released in July.
Just July, I see. It's relatively new, I see.
Yeah, it's fairly new. Yeah, it's only been out for about 3-4 months now.
And so James Lurid is your author name?
Yes, yeah, James Lurid. My original birth name is Mitchell, but I go by James Lurid. Yeah.
Any particular reason?
Yes, actually, there's a very specific reason why. At one point, somebody told me that in order for you to be a new writer and to be easily Googleable, you need a name that's easily Googled. And my name, Mitchell Wagger, Mitchell spelled with 1 L, and it's normally 2 L's normally. And Wagger is spelled with 2 A's, and everybody spells the name wrong. So I decided to go with my middle name, James, and lurid, which is meaning to describe something terrible. So kind of the reason why I decided to go with James Lurid. So that's the story behind that.
I see. That's very interesting. So can you describe your book more, such as the story or the characters?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cold Keep Reprisal is first and foremost a revenge story. The story the basis of the story is about a gentleman searching revenge on a man that killed his son. And it's a man named Walter, and he basically tries to find the man that's responsible, and he loses track. The man kills his son and gets away with basically murder. And Walter eventually tracks him down and follows him to a penitentiary in the middle of Ontario. In the woods in the winter. And once he gets inside, he actually goes into the prison undercover as another inmate in order to get his hands on his man, right? To get his revenge. But once he's inside, he discovers that there's a creature based off of indigenous lore that's stalking the prison and consuming the inmates. So,
I see. Because earlier when you gave me the book, you described as that this is kind of a supernatural thing. So it's not like a crime thriller, or it's like a more mixture of a crime thriller.
Yeah, honestly, I would consider it more, a thriller. The main character is a cop, but that's just the opening, and then he dives into a world that's completely unlike his own, right? What better of a setting for a cop than a fish out of water? So that's why I put the main character as a cop, and now he's in a prison undercover. So yeah, it's a thriller first and foremost, but it does have definitely crime themes to it.
Do you have any influence from films?
You know what? A lot of my influence came from actually Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, Shawshank is such a classic film, and my book takes place in the 60s. Shawshank was, 60s, I believe, in the 30s, but still, I took a lot of imagery from Shawshank Redemption and from the prisons there, and that's kind of where I got a lot of that from that film, and so that's kind of where that came from.
I see. So I usually ask this question first, but can you share your latest accomplishment or your temporary goals that you would like to reach?
Yeah, absolutely. So my latest accomplishment is just releasing Cold Keep.
Yes.
I started writing it when it was COVID hit, and I taught myself to read from the very beginning. or taught myself not to read, sorry, to write. And I basically took me a couple of years to going from not even knowing where to use an apostrophe, all that kind of stuff, to actually having my book written. So that's my latest accomplishment for sure, I would say. But then my goals going forward actually is Cold Keep is going to be a trilogy. So I'm working on a sequel right now. And I'm about a third of the way through it. So I plan to release each book every July 1st. So I've kind of given myself a timeline and a crunch to get the second book done, and then the third book a year after that. So
yes, also enough timing for the readers to catch it up, because some publish a lot. And
I kind of have enough time where every so often Amazon will let me give the book away for free, and it's actually free today for Halloween, to celebrate Halloween. And so I'm trying to get basically as many copies out as I can until the next book drops. So kind of, you know, the first hit's free, as they say. So
and which genre do you think you're good at writing?
Definitely thriller and horror. I actually feel like one day I would like to, you know, dive a little more just into thriller, you know, removing some of the horror aspect. But I have always had such a love for horror my whole life, anything scary and anything like that, that I am just so glued to any of that kind of stuff. But I'm not the type of person that likes to write like a lot of like gory horror. My book does have some gory scenes, but it's not about that. I like to really involve a lot of like rich character development in my stories. And so I really try to make my characters and the thriller side of my books first and foremost, with horror elements in them. So that's kind of where I'm at with those.
Yes, because the gory horror films tend to be comedy, like Peter Jackson's earlier films.
It can be, it can be, it's a fine line you have to walk when you're writing horror, or it becomes pretty cliche pretty quickly, or even just cheesy as well.
And when is your best time to write?
My best, I don't have a really best time to write, to be honest, because my full-time job that I work switches back and forth from days to nights. So I can't really get in a firm habit of writing at a specific time every day. I would love to, and if I could, it would probably be between 7 and 9 p.m., you know, right after dinner. That's my favorite time to write. But as far as it goes right now, when you're working a full-time job and you're a wannabe writer to make it big one day, you just got to find any minute you can to write. And
exactly.
And I don't even have any children, so that goes double for any parents or stuff like that. You got to write whenever you can. So
yes, we are always racing with time. So how do you brainstorm when composing new scenes, dialogues, characters, and so on?
The way that I brainstorm, honestly, comes from just following a certain rule, from certain set rules when it comes to writing a scene. For example, you know, I know where each scene is going to go. I know where I am, where it's starting, and I know where it's going to end, and I need to get the character from point A to point B. But you know, you have to do it with, you know, a mix of dialogue, a mix of action, you know, a mix of setting, stuff like that. So it's kind of a little bit of a dance for every single setting that you do, and you know, conversation you have. It's not as simple as just, you know, getting the person from point A to point B with nothing in between. You have to entertain the reader.
Exactly.
So all of my scenes are built with some very specific like things in mind. Where am I going to put the reader that's interesting? What am I going to have them doing in that setting that's interesting? And then on top of that, you also need to make sure that each setting and each scene that you have has conflict in it to keep things interesting. And so, you know, a lot of people that write, they think that you need to have conflict, you know, throughout the whole book, and absolutely you do, but every scene needs some kind of conflict. It doesn't have to be giant, big, grand stakes, but just conflict in the fact that maybe two characters in the book disagree and they get in an argument, or while two characters are doing something, they're also, you know, coming up with an issue that's in the scene, right? Like that, a lot of that takes place in Cold Keep because they're in a prison. So the prison acts as a lot of conflict as well. So yeah, I think of all those kind of things when I'm constructing a scene.
Yes, because when I read your book, I thought that the prologue is pretty kind of intense and attention grabbing, and it's pretty much a close to screenplay. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I see. And what is your major influence?
Well, for Cold Keep Reprisal, my major influences are the indigenous cultures all around Alberta. When I first came up with Cold Keep, I remember hearing about, a creature from indigenous lore. And that's the creature that takes place in my book. That's the main antagonist. But with the indigenous lore, it's always been poor taste to mention the creature's name out loud. So out of respect, throughout the entire Cold Keep, you'll never hear the creature's name mentioned by name, and myself. I don't say it myself because if I'm going to be taking stories from indigenous culture and lore, I want to be representing them correctly. I want to be honoring the tales. And the creature that I have in my book has been unfortunately misrepresented for many years in a lot of pop culture. As for example, in a lot of movies and books, this creature is has horns, but in my book it doesn't. Right? It's very I'm very picky on what I put in because it has to be true to the story. So like I said, for Cold Keep, the indigenous culture, peoples, and lore was basically the basis of what inspired my book, and a lot of the characters inside as well. Right, it was important to have indigenous representation in my characters, and one of the main characters is indigenous, and there's a whole backstory that touches on that as well. So yeah, for sure, for this book, for Cold Keep, my main influence is for sure the indigenous peoples of Alberta.
Yes, sounds like it's pretty much a strong point of this book, I think, strong advantage and sales point of this book. And how about what is your writing advice?
My writing advice, honestly, would be just write every day. And I mean, that's what so many other authors say. But I mean, writing doesn't necessarily have to be writing. When you're working on a book, if I'm working on a book and I don't write that day, but I plot out the next one of the chapters that's coming up, or I think of what's happening next, I consider that writing. Working on your book would be more of every day would be more of a specific way to say it. Definitely work on your craft every single day that you can. If that be it reading, writing, plotting, drafting, any of that. Try to do it every day. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot, but if there's anybody that tells themselves they don't have time to write, but they want to be a writer, well, they're just lying to themselves. Because there's always 10, 15, 20 minutes of the day that you can sit down and get, a couple hundred words written, and stuff like that. So that would be a big piece of advice that I'd say. And my other biggest piece of advice, honestly, is that focus on one project. Don't split it up. I see so many people that I converse with and see on Twitter and stuff like that are saying, "Oh, I have 3 work in progress, 3 books on the go," and it might work for some people, but I don't think it works for the majority of people. I don't see how you could give a book its full attention to detail and make these characters in your world really shine and change throughout the book organically if you have 3 different stories you're writing at once. So I'd also say, find a project and just stick with it, see it all the way through, and just go one pass at a time. As simple as that. Write out your book, vomit out your first draft. It's going to be garbage, because all first drafts are garbage, and then do another pass, and then do another pass, and as many passes as it takes. But, just focus on one project and get it, and stick with it.
Okay, so we're running out of time. So let's wrap up. So any message to those watching this interview?
Honestly, if you want to be a writer, just write, and just enjoy what you do. I mean, if you're out there writing for the only, sole reason you're writing is to make money one day and stuff like that, this probably isn't the career or time for you to do it.
Not gonna work.
There are so many people out there in this industry that have such amazing books that really only sell a couple copies a month. So it's about slowly building your, readership, and slowly, working on your books and your stories, because nothing's going to happen overnight. So, just to have patience and come at it with an understanding that not everything's going to happen at once. But if writing is truly your passion, and it is in your blood, and telling stories is in your blood, the money you're making off your book shouldn't be your driving factor, because oftentimes it doesn't happen for a lot of people, and it is yet to even come close to happening for me. But I write because I really enjoy it, and I have stories, and I really just love to put pen to paper. So
I see. Yes, that's pretty convincing. So, okay, thank you very much, James. His book is called Keep Reprisal. So, folks, if you're interested in James or Michelle, please pick his works and follow his account. And I truly appreciate your participation in this segment, James. Wish you great success, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much. Good talking to you today.
Thank you. Great. Bye.
Bye.